This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where for just $5 a month you get access to not one, but two whole podcasts, people. $5 gets you Takeout, a monthly commentary track where Ben and I watch stuff and talk over it because we don't feel like putting in the effort of playing yet another video game. And $2, that's it. $2 gets you, in my opinion, probably my favorite podcast we do, other than, roundups. It's That's Hell You're Walking Into, a series where Ben comes to me holding a bunch of quartz and asks me, like, what the hell do I do with these things?
Hey Siri.
Why is my Siri going in the middle of me recording? Okay. It's fine. What was I saying? That's right. Patreon.com/thegorge. Nothing, not even my iPad, randomly starting Siri will keep me from shilling to you, our wonderful listeners.
And you definitely want to contribute this month.
That's
because the next thing that goes up will be the final exam for the year, in which I have to go and see if I remember all of the crazy shit that Sara told me.
And the last time we did this, we had only been recording That's Hell You're Walking Into for 6 months. So he only had half of a year to have to remember. Now, it's a full 12-ish. It's a full year of Fate content that poor Ben has to try and recall, which will be very, very funny. So please, head on over to patreon.com/thegorge. Kick in however much you can. We appreciate literally every single dollar. And yeah, on with the show.
Thank you to JT, Steel Condor, Nyarbot, Red Lantern Reviews, Holy Star 64, Patrick Perez, Roddy 1/2, Saturn, Alice Marks, Shia Magus, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude.
Thank you guys very much.
So what are we doing this week?
This week is Indie Week. Spoilers, it's our last Indie Week ever. And we're talking about 2064 read-only memories for the everything. Not
for a lot of things.
It's out on everything now. It's out on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and Switch at this point. So yeah, it's out on everything. We accidentally, I think we've been planning to talk about this thing for like months, but then I don't know, my life kind of fell apart, and it happens. And we finally were like, okay, let's talk about 2064. Let's get it out of our system. And then I realized, as I was going back over it, I was like, hang on, this is a Christmas game. This game is set at Christmas.
Yeah.
And so it's the perfect episode.
It is
for tonight. I'm like, okay, perfect. We did it. We were thematically consistent, folks. We know what we're doing sometimes. 2064 is a pretty good little game. I actually quite like it a lot.
It is a game that, yeah, because of our schedule kept getting screwed up, like, I never wanted to abandon it because I wanted to talk about it.
No, I totally understand. Like, it was good enough that at all times I was like, man, I want to talk about 2064. But stuff kept happening, and life kept getting in the way, and bad things happen as it do. And eventually it's like, okay, well, December is the month because we're not doing these anymore.
No.
After this. So if we're going to do it, now is the time.
Yeah.
So we're finally talking about this stupid game. This stupid, wonderful little visual novel, which is what it is. It's just a visual novel.
It is an exciting little point-and-click visual novel, investigation, mystery, talking about AIs and cyberpunks and your biological augmentations and the souls and what makes a person a person.
It's got not one, but two whole actual cyberpunks in it, which is cool. It has a pretty charming little character. I mean, like, really, this game is carried super hard by, like, the charm of its characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it kind of loses it toward the end. Like, the game kind of falls apart toward the end just a little bit. But, like, it's still, like, propelled by how charming its characters are. Chief among them being our little buddy Turing, our sweet baby child, our little robot friend, who is just a fucking stand-up. Can you believe this game didn't have voice acting initially?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. Is like a lot of the charm of these characters lies in the voice acting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Turing especially is carried super, super hard by how good their voice acting is. It is apparently the actor has been in The Walking Dead, and so like she is like a real for real actor who, you know, came on and did this little part, and it's really good. Like, she does a great job making this character just so endearing and like really playing like a robot who's kind of learning their way through the world.
It's worth noting right off the bat that this is a better Detroit than Detroit.
Yeah, it is actually.
Like, it's basically the same questions that David Cage asks.
Yeah. It's the exact same idea of like personal assistant robots like becoming sapient, but like in a way more interesting way, and like a really way more compelling little mystery.
Yeah, and it's enhanced by the murder mystery that's going on and how that ties into whether or not robots should be allowed to be human and what that would entail. And yeah, the whole, like, from the very beginning, I'm like, oh my god, this is just Detroit.
It's Detroit, yeah.
Like, this is literally what we talked about in our Detroit episode when we were talking about, like, humans will identify with anything. You don't need to make a humanoid robot for us to project on.
Yeah, like, people project on their Roombas. You don't need to make them look like a people. They can just be like a little friend, a little buddy, and be like, this is our little buddy. And like, literally the most realistic part of 2064 is the fact that that every time Turing is like, my name is Turing, and I am the world's first, you know, sapient ROM. Literally everyone is like, oh, cool, good for you, little dude. You know what I mean? Like, nobody is ever like, you're not really alive. They're all like, no, this is Turing. They're our little friend, and we're rooting for him, you know?
This little screen head.
This little bubble-headed baby, with all the charm and character that you could ever hope for. It's very much like basically any game that's like, you're the player character and you're here to tend to this little baby child, you know? It's the Tim Rogers baby child big friend scenario.
I didn't even like comprehend the idea that like being mean to Turing would give you a different ending, because the idea of being mean to Turing never even occurred to me.
It's impossible to be mean to Turing because that's just a baby, you know what I mean? That's just a little friend. But like, you can be mean, and they even like will respond to like high pressure. It's not just that you get a different ending, because like that's really kind of cheap and lazy and lame. It's that through the whole game, they are responding differently to scenarios and are like less verbose and more aggressive based on how you've been talking to them as well.
Yeah. And yeah, this game, again, just like Detroit, this game does choice and like injecting your personality into a character.
Yeah, absolutely. You are yourself kind of determining the structure and flow of like this relationship with Turing, and it's really good. Like, I don't know. It's just really compelling writing for like this one little character who's trying real hard to find their way, in a big scary world. It's great.
Yeah, it's great because like usually in these kinds of games where you have like an audience surrogate protagonist, like you need a Navi to do the talking for you.
Right.
Like during lengthy conversations.
Yeah. Hang on 2 seconds. Carry on.
But no, like you usually have like to do the heavy lifting in conversation, like, lengthy conversations, right? Because, you can't just be selecting dialogue prompts every 2 seconds.
Right, yeah. You have to have somebody who's acting as the player voice. And so it kind of works for Turing it works in a lot of ways. It works on a lot of different kind of structures to have Turing kind of take on your personality, like how you're treating the world around you. Like Turing is also adopting that because it also becomes like a reflection of the way the player character is playing the game. So you're getting more kind of self-expression in the video game as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then it also kind of helps you. I mean, again, I can't imagine being mean.
No.
To Turing.
So this is kind of my problem with me playing visual novels in general, and why I'm not normally drawn to them unless they're like this or like a Phoenix Wright, where like I literally have no choices to make. Like it's all gonna go in one direction. It's just a matter of like solving the riddles, right? Is that I don't ever want to be confrontational with someone in these kinds of games, because I know that like if I like that's the way you cut off like conversation paths, right? Like it's you're basically doing an improv session and you want to yes and.
Well, that's why visual novels let you save at any point. That's like that's why you have. Like Fate Stay Night has the bad end, like the literal numbered bad ends that you are encouraged to get for like the sake of completionism. They're literally like, here's I forget how many bad ends there are in Fate Stay Night. I want to say like 45. I can't remember. There's a lot. And you're literally or endings. It's not just bad ends. Like all the route endings are also included in that count. But it's literally like encouraging you. The whole idea is just like, you can save at any time. So save your game, say your rude shit, and you're like, well, if I don't feel good about that, I can walk that back. Actually, it's funny that you brought up Phoenix Wright because, like, boy, some mad Phoenix Wright vibes in this, right?
So a lot of the investigation bits is very like I can hear like the investigation suite playing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely like, when you're really aching for more Phoenix Wright and the universe is really not giving you a lot of Ace Attorney games to kind of scratch that itch. This not exactly, but it kind of itches the same center of your brain,
Yeah, because it's the same kind of perspective of like, here is an environment that's like 1 or 2 screens and you have a cute, quirky assistant to, have dialogue with you when you like point at like a tree or like a person that's standing in the distance.
You can have an argument whether it's a ladder or a step ladder, or a spade or a shovel, this is funny. I was playing this game and I was like, I don't think I would mind a fully voice acted Phoenix Wright game anymore. I was like, I really like this. I actually can just like listen to somebody talk to me instead. It'd be a whole hell of a lot more dialogue than a little, 6-hour long indie game or however long this game takes to beat.
Yeah, for sure.
Be a hell of a lot more dialogue, but I really liked it. I was like, I like this. I like having people actually talking to me. I would still miss the beep boops, but I wouldn't mind the beep boops going away, actually. Now having done a similarly formatted video game, I'm like, hang on, I think I might actually like that more.
It was the voice acting. It's So I wrote like several notes. Like the acting itself is all really good. Like
I am actually really surprised by the quality of voice acting, just kind of overall.
And there were a few times where I pointed like, "That's Pro ZD.
That's Pro ZD.
I recognize him. That's Pro ZD.
He plays 6 characters in this game. Yeah.
Pro ZD Sungwon Cho can either be like a main character, or he's like every incidental NPC. Like he has such a distinctive voice for like weird, wacky characters or like really imposing, deep characters.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also just really good at being a guy.
He's just like a dude in the background. And you're like, hang on, do I know that guy?
Like mildly related, like he's a relatively significant character in Yakuza 7.
Sure, yeah.
But he's also like every other like minor quest NPC.
Right?
He's just like random dude on the street who needs Ichiban's help with something. So it's great.
He has the ability to just be a guy. It's not like Travis Willingham, who just sounds like that.
Yeah.
Prozy or Sungwon Cho has like the ability to just be a dude.
It's an underrated talent to just kind of just be a regular dude in voice acting.
Absolutely.
And I thought for a long time that Lexi's VA was abridged Android 18, and I was surprised that she's not, because they sound exactly the same.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right.
So I was like, that's gotta be, and then I looked it up and it was not, but I was like, she sounds like they sound exactly the same, and it's great. Like the only problem I have is that it's all very, very clear they recorded on different microphones.
Yeah, probably the biggest offender of this, and like as a side note, I don't really like Jim Sterling, just kind of in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like their content. And it's super obvious that Jim Sterling recorded all their voice lines. It sounds like they recorded all their voice lines on like a fucking like a laptop microphone.
Some of them very clearly have like recording booths or like closets with echo resistant padding and everything like that.
Sure.
And some people have a blanket over their heads.
Yeah, it's really obvious. And I get it. It's an indie game. I'm sure it's very expensive to get all these different voices to come do some lines for your video game.
And it's super impressive that like every single line of dialogue is voiced. Like that is a huge step above what I ever would have expected or like even like anticipated or like hoped for to get out of a game like this.
I wouldn't even like think about it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't even think about just like I'd be like, okay, so all the major characters are voiced. That's fine. But like all of the like a bunch of just like bit parts have voices, and I love the touch that once the ROMs gain sapience, they give voices instead. Yeah. They go from being beep boops to having like actual voices. I like that. I think that's a neat little touch. There's a lot of just like really good stuff going on. I think I wouldn't have liked. I definitely would not have liked Chad and Ollie as much as I ended up liking Chad and Ollie if it weren't for the fact
that they sound like that.
That they sound like that, yeah. Like they're really funny voice, and I love that specific duo of character archetype. Like very, especially Chad, who is like my sleeper favorite character in this
for game. Sure. Oh, for sure.
He's so funny. Everything he does just owns.
I love a character where it's like, we need to cause a diversion. Can you go punch a cop?
Yeah. I need you to just grab this thing and run. And Chad or Starfucker is like, hell yeah, man, let's fucking go.
What was I forgot, what was her name? The cafe, the girl who is behind the counter of the cafe, the otaku.
Why would you? Oh, Ramona, because
Ramona.
like Ramona Flowers. That's
Yeah.
why I remembered.
Her voice actress is a real otaku, I'm convinced, because that's what she sounds like.
Yeah, she sounds like a.
She sounds like every girl I hung out with in anime club in college.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand what you're saying. It's really funny.
Like the just the slight level of inflection she puts on certain words.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I've talked to you. I've specifically talked to you.
Yeah.
Before.
And that whole sequence is very funny. I do think this game, probably it ironically likes the sound of its own voice too much. Like, it talks a lot. But because it's all voiced, I don't mind. Like, because there's actual people talking to me and telling me things, I don't mind. I feel like this would be way more of a slog if there weren't actual voice acting. Like,
I think so for sure. I would be skipping through a lot more.
So much. There's a lot of dialogue in this game.
Yeah, if it weren't for the fact that everyone was very clearly enjoying getting into their characters.
Oh yeah, and there's so many funny characters.
It's the one that like sold me on it was like when you first meet Tomcat.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear the southern accent, and I'm like, that's fake. And then it turns out to actually be fake.
Yeah, no, and she's great. She has a really funny, like, I love Tomcat. Tomcat is such a good character.
Yeah.
Just, like, she's so fun, and her accent is super fake. But, like, she's just, I don't know. When we met Tomcat, I was not expecting them, excuse me.
Yeah, them. That's I was thinking like, wait, Tomcat's they them, and I was like, because I couldn't remember it's been a while, so I can't remember which character.
Yeah,
I knew one of them was.
Yeah, it's Tomcat's they them. But like when we met them, I'm like, I didn't expect them to be like a major, but like Tomcat is one of the primary characters in this game.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of forms a little trio with Turing and the main character, you know?
Yeah.
And I was super happy about that. I love this and the fact that they don't ever drop the, like, even after saying like, no, my accent is fake, they still go for it.
Yeah, they still do it.
Drop it. Yeah.
On that note, like, I did know like right away, like, oh, this is gonna be a good game, because like first thing to ask is like, hey, what are your pronouns?
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's nice. There's a lot of just little things like that. It's a very openly queer game.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, and it's all very kind of fun and casual, and there's a lot of, interesting permutations of sexuality throughout the whole game. I really like that. Just a lot of fun character designs. I love the look of this game, like, a lot.
The contrast between like the in-field pixel art and the portraits, I really liked that.
Like all the little animations and stuff are really good. All the portraits are like very expressive and fun. There's just a lot of really good like character design going on as well. There's just and the soundtrack is super good too.
Yeah, it is.
So the soundtrack. That's a really important thing to bring up, is that I really enjoyed the soundtrack of this video game. Obviously, I don't think they're set in the same universe, but I do think that there's like a reference to Valhalla in 2064, right?
Yes, a character shows up. Or is it that a 2064 character shows up in Valhalla? I can't remember now.
I can't remember. But...
No, it's I think it's both, because in the epilogue...
Right.
2064... you can meet a Valhalla character.
Right. And obviously I really liked Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Valhalla is an incredible video game. And yeah, this game has a lot of those same kind of vibes going on, but with a little bit more of a directed story versus just, vibing like we do in Valhalla. And yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked a lot of things about it. And I was actually really impressed with just like the kind of twists and turns that the story takes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Multiple times. I think that the story, like the actual mystery, is like really interesting. I think the resolution's a little weak. But the build up to it is really good.
There's a lot going on, and it's a solid mystery that like once you figure out one truth, it unlocks two more mysteries, and things happen that are out of your control, and you know your investigation causes problems for other people as you try to, you know, bring someone to justice.
Right, yeah.
And it gets, you know, more involved and things are tied together. And it's that I always love, like, you know, one minor thing. And as you uncover, like, the deeper it gets into, like, this was just, like, a piece of a grand conspiracy, actually.
Yeah, and, there's just the little turns of people constantly turning up dead in the media plot, like the media kind of fork in the story was great. I just love the like rapid fire, the guy getting hit by a truck, you know, you find a dead guy in an apartment. It's like a really interesting noir story.
Yeah.
Like that was probably the part that surprised me the most, was that I didn't expect it to be as interesting of like a mystery as it ended up being. But that ultimately was like the thing that kind of, you know, keeps you going, is just how fascinating the kind of mystery story that's getting told is. It's like a I don't want to say like bog standard, but it's a very kind of standard conspiracy oriented like noir story. It's just executed really well.
Yeah, the presentation is really solid, and it has enough of a strong personality that, yeah, it recycles a lot of premises and stuff we've seen before, but it mixes them together really, really well, and it feels really compelling to continue, and the characters are endearing, and you invest in their personal conflicts and their situations.
So, you said you have notes as well.
Yeah, so I did take a lot, or not a ton.
Sure.
But just like we covered a lot of it, like really already. But like getting into like the broader scope of how this game functions, and like this kind of stuff it drops at your feet and says, "Okay, you think about this now."
Sure.
Like, hey, you know, you can basically be like a splicer from Batman Beyond and turn yourself into a cat person.
It's like a kitty person. I love future storylines that are like, fuck it, we got furries now.
Yep, and then the government will sterilize you.
Yeah. Whoops.
Oh
no, that's not as great, actually.
Oh, that part's not as fun anymore.
It's not as fun. It sucks because it's like the genome therapy stuff is like, it's meant to treat diseases and stuff.
Yeah.
With the side effect that it turns you into a cat girl, which is interesting. I think I'm kind of two minds about the furries in this game, I guess is the best way to put it. Because like on the one hand, it's weird because it definitely feels like it's being used as like a shorthand analog for like trans rights and what you can do with your body, and how much control you have over it. But it's also like in the setting, there doesn't seem to actually be any active discrimination against queer people.
Yeah.
So I guess it's really more so like a disability rights thing.
That's what I got out of it more, was because like it, you know, what's her name? I should have written everyone's names down.
Jess, the Catgirl lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she had the surgery because of an illness. Like, she was going to die without it. Yeah. And the injustice is that she had to do, this wasn't like, and even if it was a thing you could volunteer for, like, you still shouldn't be sterilized, but it's the idea that she had to do this or she would die, and then the government's like, the government is still like, no, you have to be sterilized now. Yeah, and it's more of a disability or a handicap metaphor than a sexuality or a gender identity thing.
That's true, because I mean, it's a literal, we have literal examples in history of disabled people being sterilized while, undergoing surgery. That's a thing that happened until like as early as like the 1970s and 80s in some cases, I think. And so I guess that tracks better as a metaphor. And it's not always one-to-one either.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel a little heavy-handed. Okay, a little. Sometimes this game can be very heavy-handed.
Sometimes this game grabs you by the face and points you directly so you can only look at something and it holds your eyes open.
Yeah, pay attention.
Sometimes turning just holds up a big sign.
Yeah. And I think I saw some reactions online to people who don't like that. I don't care. I feel like the people who don't like it being very in your face with its messaging are also the same kind of people who claim they like their content apolitical. So no, you don't. You just like content that caters to the kind of dominant people in society. Like it's not actually apolitical. It's just the politics that don't piss you off.
Yeah.
So I don't mind a little bit of heavy-handed storytelling sometimes. It's fine. I play Tales games. I have played a Tales video game before. The least subtle form of video game entertainment of all time.
There's the one on the GameCube has concentration camps in it. It's not subtle.
It's not subtle. So I'm okay with 2064 being a little heavy-handed. Who cares? But it is funny. Anytime like a futuristic setting is like, we got Catgirls now. I'm like, was this like was this a tabletop game that you played and then you turned into a video game? I feel it's like half the time,
It's very much like of course you're gonna have them when your game looks like this already, Yeah,
you might as well go all the way and have Catgirls, It's fine.
What else did I have? There's not a it's kind of like I said, it's very standard, so there's not a ton of big shocking things that this game does unique that no other game does, that's really worth a lot of intricate discussion. But that bit at the end with Decker was really good.
Yeah, I actually think the bit at the end with Decker is probably a highlight of this game. Because okay, if you didn't see Decker betraying you, I encourage you to read more stories, I'll say. I encourage you to encounter more media.
So you know what the funny thing about doing this podcast for this long has done to me?
What?
Is that I've circled back to not seeing things coming.
Really?
Because I've consumed so much media and have thought about narratives as narratives for so long.
Sure.
That the twist has become this default for me, and I'm surprised when things don't have a twist.
Or when the twist is so obvious that it's not a twist anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it's there's this guy and it's oh, this guy is obviously evil. So what'll happen is he won't be evil and he'll be on my side. Oh, wow, I didn't expect him to be evil.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just knew that So they mention at one point that, I mean, they don't mention. It's like it's an active plot point that when you go back to Hayden's office or his apartment, you know, you get robot flashbanged basically.
Yeah.
And it knocks you and Turing out, and it's like, you know, Turing says like, well, I didn't sense whoever did it to us coming up, you know, I didn't see. And then later they mentioned, like, Lexi says like, oh yeah, you're like in the Marines and you're like a cool kill guy and all of your combat records are super redacted. And I was like, he did it. Okay.
Yeah, it was him. Okay.
It was him. But I didn't see the android twist coming. That's what got me. I was like, oh, he's gonna kill us. And then it's like, oh, he's like a psychopath. Okay. That's more fun. Did
you get vibes of that episode of Ghost in the Shell where it's all about like just that dude who gets like a huge crush on the Major?
Oh yeah, and he's like it's basically Taxi Cab, but in the shell, yeah.
But like it like the part where Deckard talks about like being a robot and like not being able to actually touch or taste anything, just kept making me think of that scene where like he watches his android coworkers eat and like vomits because it disgusts him.
Yeah. Oh my god, totally. I feel that completely. Yeah, no, that whole sequence is... Hold on. I'm opening another drink. That whole sequence is actually really good. It's a shame that boss fight sucks so much ass.
That was a weird thing that I think was supposed to be harder than it actually was.
It was hard for me. Maybe I'm stupid. I didn't understand like what it wanted of me.
Like he never got close to me because they gave you so many moves and so many options, and I'm just like, okay, well, if he's in this corner, I'll just go to this corner.
Yeah. And
by the time he gets to me there, I'll be over here instead, and he can never catch up.
That's true. I guess I was trying to find a win state instead of just avoiding him constantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like trying to see like, well, there has to be a way out of here, but the answer is you just avoid him until the plot says you don't, you know? What is that over there? Is that the script?
Turing's like, the script says we have to wait 5 turns.
Turing, come here. Change your face over to the script. I need to see what happens next. But yeah, you know, it was just... it was a drag. Most of the puzzles in this game are kind of a drag, as much as I like it. I'm just like...
there were a lot of puzzles, but there was not enough, for me at least, there was not enough combining 2 objects to use on a third thing in the environment.
What the heck? That's like a whole fucking adventure game thing.
Like, I didn't get weighed down with like 15 objects in my inventory.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm used to like, you know, Phoenix Wright. And like, you know, the way you present point and click games has shifted since, you know, the mid 90s.
Sure. Like the bygone days of Day of the Tentacle and stuff.
Yeah. But, you know, I like that. I like being like, okay, can you take this? Is this doing anything for you? If I shove this in your face, like... Yeah,
I'm just going to shove everything in my bag against your face. I've definitely gotten used to, with Phoenix Wright games especially, being able to examine something and then that thing changes, like the nature of that thing changes. I like that a lot. Even if you're not combining 2 objects, you're still like, my analytical mind is solving this problem because I decided to open the back of this picture, you know?
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more of that kind of thing. It's definitely, I mean, like, if you go into this game thinking of it as a visual novel, you'll probably have a better time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If you don't go into it thinking of it as a adventure game, you're gonna have a better time because like it's really, I mean, like it is technically an adventure game because there's an inventory and you're, you know, talking and interacting and being able to look at everything on your desk, you know. Those are all adventure games.
Yeah.
But it's really not. You don't really have to ever do like most of that.
Right.
You can just play the video game. And
the vast majority of it is picking dialogue options.
Yeah. It's talking to people. The whole game is about talking to people. So again, thank God all the character writing is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we would be having a bad time. I feel really stupid for suggesting 2064. But no, it actually has really good character writing.
And yeah, like the ending is it felt earned. Like the one I got, at least. I don't know which. I'm pretty sure we both got the same one.
We got the best ending with an apple. Yeah, because again, why would you be mean to Turing?
Yeah,
I watched the bad ending on YouTube.
I failed to get the perfect ending the first time around.
Okay.
Where you have to talk to Turing to keep them online.
Sure.
While the data's being uploaded and stuff.
Right.
I failed that. I didn't pick the right options for that, but then I reloaded my save and did it over and got it.
Sure, of course. That's why we can save it anytime.
Yep. And the ending was great. Speaking of Ghost in the Shell, like I like when every robot in the world turns into a Tachikoma.
Yeah. Suddenly you have like your Froyo robot is holding a picket sign protesting for their rights. You know, I like that a lot.
I liked the Roomba at the hospital.
Who was pissed because, like, how dare you give me sapience?
Yeah.
I don't have any arms, asshole.
Now I gotta think about bills and stuff.
That is true. It's like telling your dog that the rent is due, in a way.
Yeah.
You have made their life significantly worse in doing so.
It's the opposite of that edit of, like, the cover of Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, where it's just like, oh, hell yes. Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the robots, the ROMs, are like, yeah, this is great. But then you have, like, you have the street sweeping ROM.
Yeah.
Who's like, I didn't need this. You better give me some arms soon, asshole.
You talk to the handful that, like, you broke for the sake of the investigation. And they're like, hey, I remember when you did that to me.
Motherfucker. It's like, sorry. We didn't plan on giving you sapience at the beginning. This is just something that we came up with as we were going.
They're also just like, oh, there is our Lord and Master Turing. And Turing is like, no.
I'm just a little baby. I don't know how to lead people.
Hey, I'm just a little guy. I'm just a little boy.
I'm just a little robot friend. Come on, it's my birthday. It's everybody's birthday at the same time. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Merry Christmas. Yeah, no, it's great.
So yeah, I mean, like it is a fun little adventure game with a lot going on, and it doesn't do anything like crazy unique or like it's not our usual fare of like highlighted indie games where like it messes with your UI and like it didn't put any files on our desktop or anything.
I know. We usually that's what we eat up. Do you know that, by the way, we're taking a small detour. Do you know they're making a console port of One Shot?
I'm super curious. I'm going to replay One Shot.
Yeah, I need you to tell me how that's gonna work because like One Shot, it is integral to One Shot. Like, you know, we say that like you can't really make like a Doki Doki Literature Club or like I think a lot of people didn't think you could make a console version of Undertale. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, actually, no, it works just fine. Don't worry about it. But like One Shot, how do you do that?
How does that work? Like, there's a point in One Shot where you have to take another window and overlay it on top of the game window. How are you going to do that on a console?
I don't know. You need to tell me. I need to know how that's going to work on the Nintendo Switch because I'm fascinated.
I will find out. But yeah, it doesn't do that. It doesn't like give you a ton to think about in terms of the meta of the player interacting with the game's universe or anything like that. It's just a really, really charming and interesting point-and-click visual novel adventure game with a lot of fun characters and great writing and good voice acting and a lot of heart and passion in it.
Yeah, it has just a lot of heart and soul. There's a lot of love you can just kind of see poured into it. A lot of the character writing is like really good, which I was surprised by. Like, it's not just Turing. Like I said, I think Ollie and Chad are extremely funny fucking characters who I love. And Tomcat ends up being like a really, delightful little addition to the main trio of characters. And yeah, it's just like, there's just a lot of little fun things going on in this video game that I liked a lot. I enjoyed basically every moment playing 2064. Like I
spent a lot of the ending like really worried about Lexi.
Yeah,
like, she better be okay.
You better not have fucking killed my sister-in-law, game. She's fine, thank God.
Yeah, I know she's fine because she has comic books.
Yeah.
Which is cool. This game got like an actual graphic novel published.
Well, that's because they're making a sequel.
I know.
Apparently, they're going to do the sequel. Was supposed to come out this year, but again, the world ended. So So now they're saying early 2022, which is really surprising. So we should actually have the sequel. Hopefully, we'll have the sequel soon. That way, we can stave off the wait for Nirvana, which is never coming out.
Never. We are still waiting. It's over the horizon.
It's just like, no, we promise it's happening. And it's like, when? I need more of my lavishly animated pixel cyberpunk visual novels. Yeah. That's all I'm asking. I would like more, thank you.
With great music.
With great music. Great fucking soundtrack. Every time a new track would start, I'm just like, oh, this one's a banger too. Like, they're all good. It's that same kind of chill vibes. Not as good as Valhalla. This game very much is... I think this game came out... Did it come out before Valhalla? When did Valhalla come? This game came out originally in 2015.
Yeah, because what we are playing is a remaster with the voice acting and some additional content in it.
Right. Hold on. Valhalla. When did that come out? 26. Yeah, so this game actually came out first. So I can't say that it's like it was made to be like a way to tide yourself over for more Valhalla, because it's not true. But if you're like me and you're just like wilting because Nirvana isn't out yet, you can't go wrong, honestly.
No, absolutely.
This is a highly easy recommendation, especially because it goes on Steam sale a lot.
Yeah, if you are a fan of Valhalla or if you are a fan of Phoenix Wright, give this game a shot.
And if you're on our Discord, which means you like both, then you should definitely play this one. I don't think we spoiled anything too severely either.
I mean, nothing about the actual mystery. You kind of spoiled who an antagonist is.
That's true. We did say that about Decker. But again, if you've seen like a movie, you know that about him basically instantly. Especially when they introduce the character. One time, they introduced Decker once after you talk to Fairlight, right?
Yeah.
You talk to this guy one time and he's like, yeah, I'm Mr. Fairlight's assistant. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And then you don't see him again for the rest of the video game until the very end.
And you're like, one of you two is the bad guy.
And it actually surprises both of them.
Yeah.
But it's very funny because he shows up and he's like, yeah, I do things discreetly for Mr. Fairlight. And also, I'm like a super cool mercenary guy with a crazy redacted kill record. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 2064. I see what you're doing.
But no, there is a lot more of this, so definitely big recommendation.
Tons of people who we didn't even talk about. We talked about TV host guy who's really funny, and yeah, there's a lot of good character writing. Play it for Turing alone. Turing is our sweet baby. That's just a child who we all love. They make a Turing plush.
I need to get one of those.
And I saw it, and I was like, oh, I need it. So, it's good. It's good. I recommend it.
Yeah. So there is something else I did want to talk about.
Sure, hit me.
Because I played this because our original plan was to play this and Boyfriend Dungeon.
Yes.
And this is something I've been wanting to talk about, but I'm afraid to talk about for very big reasons.
And you talked about this with me before we did the episode. So it's okay.
So in comparison between these two games, both of these games strongly feature people who are of a specific kind of, group and orientation that have been looked down upon and have had problems that I can't relate to in certain ways, and they have found their own kind of escapism.
Sure.
I'm talking, of course, about Californians.
Yes, of course. The most maligned people in our country, the Californian. No, we're talking about marginalized sexualities. It's okay.
Yeah. And I brought this up while I was during E3 actually, when I reviewed the talked about my experience with the Wholesome Games Direct.
Sure.
And how playing this in Boyfriend Dungeon really kind of highlights the problem I have with LGBTQ video games.
Oh no.
As I cross my arms in the thumbnail and,
the problem with LGBTQ video. I know what you're saying. It's this idea of a very strange kind of subgenre of LGBTQ games that are really leaning in on the how little conflict there is within the actual queer characters.
That's exactly it. Playing Boyfriend Dungeon and seeing all these different characters, and I'm talking to them and interacting with them and stuff, and I'm you guys are all the same character.
Yeah, they're all they're gay and nice and hot and probably a little quirky.
And they have a gimmick this one likes painting and this one is a business owner and but it's
woke boss babe.
But
gay business owner, yeah.
You're all the same level of
nice.
Of Animal Crossing level of encouraging. That's it. Everyone in these kinds of games feels like an Animal Crossing character. Where
I completely understand.
Because Animal Crossing is a game for babies. No one is ever mean to you. Because
nobody's supposed to be mean to you. It's supposed to be just pure escapism.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what also a lot of queer games are also going for is escapism. But the problem is that when it's not just a cute big-headed wolf cartoon baby, it's really boring.
Yeah. And the problem I have with it, thinking about a lot of it, is it feels because you're trying to the intent, I would assume, at least, like, you know, when you're making a game, like, I want to make an LGBT game that will appeal to people.
Sure.
And so I want people to, you know, to feel invited and to feel welcome and safe while playing it.
Sure.
Is that you're trying to branch out to people who, say, might not be in the LGBTQ community or might not, you know, be a part of that group.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, if they're of a certain mindset, they're not going to play it anyway.
Right, yeah.
And so what you end up doing is it just kind of comes off as condescending.
Yeah, absolutely.
To marginalized people.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It feels very just like, I don't know. And plus, I mean, we have it's a recurring thing on the internet of like indie studios making games with gay people in them being held to like a way higher standard of not being controversial at all. And so a lot of games like Boyfriend Dungeon still got flack
It
still got flack despite being like extremely milquetoast in its presentation of these characters, because like it has like a stalker subplot, but like it still got like a shit ton of flack because these small studios are being held to a way higher standard, and the problem is that you sand off all the edges, and like for me that's really boring. I'm sorry. It makes me think a lot of the very famous controversy with Dream Daddy, another game that I really don't have a lot of love for. Dream Daddy kind of famously had it was an axed subplot. It's not in the game. It's like fucking you know how like Hot Coffee in San Andreas, you can't access it in regular gameplay. You have to hack to get it. Dream Daddy has the same thing. It has an axed subplot that they didn't go forward with, but is still like in the game. Like it's still in the script files and shit. And there's still some art assets of one of the dads being in a cult. And one, people lost their minds about it anyways, and two, like a certain subgenre of people like lost their minds about it, even though like it's not actually in the game itself. But also a shit ton of people lost their minds about it because it's really cool.
Yeah,
because like this is really important. You kind of want your romance video game characters to suck. Like a little bit.
The idea is that like they need to have something wrong with them that like you can work out in the relationship.
It's the power fantasy of I can fix him.
Yeah.
That's it. They have to have something to fix.
And that's it's and
it doesn't have to always be as like dramatic as like a cult or being eaten by that one in How to Fool Boyfriend. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be that horrible and dramatic, but like, there still has to be more friction. And
playing, I didn't get very far in Boyfriend Dungeon, but like, I'm playing it and I'm like talking to these people. It's like all of their problems are external, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you have to help one guy with his shitty dad, or like, one girl has like a shitty ex that they're dealing with, and it's like, okay, but there's nothing wrong between us. There's nothing that's causing us to struggle.
Yeah, so it's kind of like there's like a writing axiom that says your story should be about the most interesting part of your character's life. Mm-hmm. And if it's not about the most interesting part of their character's life, why are you not telling me that story instead? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it just feels like, this is just like, oh, well, we just get along and I'm helping you solve your problems. And it's like, I mean, that's fine, but you still want like a little bit of friction, because like that push and pull is what makes a good like romance story. And it's like, well, what does this have to do with 2064? And the answer is that like there's like there's a lot of gay characters in 2064, and they actually have some friction. None of them are romance options, mind you, because this is not that kind of a game.
No.
But, like, they have friction and texture, you know?
Playing 2064 and then playing Boyfriend Dungeon is like, Starfucker and Ollie are such good, well-written characters.
Yes.
Because Starfucker sucks.
Because he's just kind of like a stupid asshole.
He's a huge, idiot, loudmouth bastard who constantly gets in fights and causes huge amounts of trouble and doesn't know how to shut his goddamn mouth. And he strings along this poor, meek sap who is head over heels for him and constantly drags him into trouble, and it's great. There's such fun, rounded out characters, and there's nothing like that in Boyfriend Dungeon.
Right. There's really no texture like that.
And I'm also using Boyfriend Dungeon as a catch-all term for a lot of other LGBTQ games that are coming out that have these sanded off edges and are just designed to make you feel safe.
Right. And it's like, I get to a certain extent that, you know, you want content that is just kind of like comfort food.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's a lot of stuff like that. And I think it's fine to like that.
And like you said, these small devs, these 4 or 5, you know, people who are queer and have dealt with this kind of stuff their whole lives are now under tons of pressure to get it perfect because they're the only ones doing it. So I totally get that. I do, and I sympathize with that.
Right.
But you have to explore a little bit.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks. I guess ultimately what it boils down to is that it sucks that it seems like every gay game can be presented at the Wholesome Games conference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That it's like it all kind of falls into that same extremely narrow box, and it's like I wouldn't mind the wholesome, which is just it's a term that has lost all meaning at this point. The wholesome escapist content if there was more that wasn't like that, but it's really hard to find that.
Yeah.
There's not as much of that as I wish there was in video games, you know? So that's ultimately what it boils down to. It's just like a frustration of going from content that is more, or that has a bit more edge to it and has more interesting character writing, and it's like, can I just have this?
Yeah,
more often. I'm just starved for more like that.
2064 is a great example of the thing we both want out of games like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got a sharp edge to it. There's fucking on-screen murders.
Yeah, it's got some edge. It's got some a little bit of spice to it.
They have and the kid's name is Starfucker.
Yeah. By the way, most awkward part, because it's the same way as when you hear a small child say a bad word, is when Turing actually calls him Starfucker. And I'm like, no!
You can't use that word.
You're not allowed to use that word. You're my baby. Don't teach my baby how to swear, you bastard. You know?
And I also think speaking of Turing, I also think a lot about the conversation they have about gender identity in 2064, and about robots. They're like, oh yeah, we kind of, treat this one like a girl because she's pink, and even Tomcat is like, well, I've been calling Turing a boy just because blue.
Because blue, yeah, and kind of a boyish, but not really a boyish sounding voice, but it's that kind of gender neutral voice combined with blue. You're like, oh, that's a boy, but no, not really.
Yeah,
that doesn't really mean anything.
And that's such a was such an interesting conversation to have, where it's oh yeah, even in this day and age, it's not even a prejudice thing. You just kind of default to something.
Yeah.
Based on, just a few characteristics that you can observe.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that whole conversation is just, like, interesting, because even Turing themselves is like, well, I don't really know where I mean, their predecessor, by the way, I think it sucks that we never saw Grace, and I'm hoping if there is, like, a sequel, we get some kind of indication of what she was like, which is Turing's predecessor. But Turing is like, well, I don't really know where I kind of fall in relation to, like, gender vis-a-vis, like, my predecessor. And I'm still, they say, like, basically, like, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Which is, like, a normal thing for, like, a lot of people. It's like, well, I don't really know what's going on with my gender right now. I'm still working it out.
And that is the kind of, like, friendly, inviting way to do it that doesn't feel condescending.
Right, that doesn't feel like you've just kind of totally sanded away, like, any characteristics. It's, it really does kind of suck. I did want to play Boyfriend Dungeon, but you were like, I don't really like this. And we have extremely similar tastes.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe you'll get something out of it that I won't, like, but it's...
I mean, like, I have even edgier tastes in content than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If there's something out there where even Ben is going, like, I don't know, this just kind of feels, like, very flat, then I will be like, this is the most boring fucking thing I've ever played in my entire life. I loved Hatoful Boyfriend, is what I'm saying. I think that game fucking owns.
Like, you would be like this, like, the stalker character, you'd be like, oh, he's the only interesting one.
He's the interesting, yeah! And I bet it's not even that interesting. It's like...
It's, basically it boils down to this guy texts you a lot and, like, assumes you're into him.
Oh.
And, like, I am assuming he's, like, the final boss or something.
Sure.
But it's like, oh, okay, he shows up at a party and is an asshole.
Sure.
And then
that's not even that interesting. You need your asshole characters to have texture.
And then when he leaves, like, all of your romance options, like, surround you to make sure you're okay and, like, are warm and friendly to you afterward. So it's like, okay, well, yeah.
Well, I feel fine now.
Remember how, like, in Persona Social Links, there's, like, a conflict that a character has to get over?
Yeah, I want... Like I said, it is the power fantasy of I can fix him.
Yeah,
that's
what you want.
That's what you want. You want your characters to suck because you are using the power of love. I know that's not how it is in the real world. I don't care because it's a video game. I also don't have a boyfriend that can turn into a sword in the real world. I know that my love cannot fix people's brain problems. However, in a video game, it can, because it's also the same universe where I can throw fireballs and shit. You know what I mean? It's all the same power fantasy, and some people, I need more shit to get that.
Yes,
because that's where the fun and the texture lieth. I keep saying texture is so important. I'm sorry. It's like, well, we made this really hot character, and it's like...
That's a really hot JPEG.
Thanks. But there's more to it than that.
That does nothing afterward.
One of the best-selling characters in Fate Grand Order this past year is Oberon, and there's a reason for that. And it's not just because he's a hot boy, but it's because he's a hot boy who also sucks. They have to suck a little bit.
They have to be a little garbage. They have to want to throw a trash can at a cop.
Or pick fights for no reason, or insist on being called Starfucker.
If your queer character, if you cannot send your queer character to start a riot, then I don't care anymore. Starfucker has set the standard.
It's true, but fantastic, and it's just a little teeny tiny little part of this game is this romance between these two characters, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's such a small part of like an overall, narrative, but I really like that. I like that a lot, and yeah, I'm starving for more edgy content like that. And it's like, yeah, you can find all of it, but like the thing is that content does exist, but it is for the most part in like heterosexual otome games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have played a handful, more than a handful, a decent number of otome games. And it's like, this is fun because these characters, they're kind of shitty. Like, I joke all the time. I really like... The Second Reproduction is an excellent otome game. That's for free. It only has 3 romance options. Like, it's kind of a small game, but it's free, and I highly recommend it. And it's, I joke all the time, this demon lord is he's so perfect, but he's too sad to let me fuck him. It's like a lot of that kind of character shit. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And it's like, I want more of that. It's not just, I don't want it just be like for heterosexual relationships and shit. I want that stickiness like in everything, or at least in more things. Not in everything,
right.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
But in more things, because I'm starving.
Like, I just think about 2064 and Boyfriend Dungeon and The Missing. Because those are the 3 big ones that I've played that stand out to me.
The Missing is great.
And yeah, you want to talk about grit and hard edges.
Flavor. There's so much spice in this queer narrative. The whole idea of it being like a really intense, trans narrative about like, to a pretty severe extent is like self-harm, but not like it's not about like self-harm. It's more of a, that is, I'm not making any sense. That is what it is about, but it's also not about that.
Yeah.
It's about your views towards your body and like dysphoria, being expressed in this extremely gory way. That's really shocking to a lot of people, but it's the shockingness that makes it stick out in your brain. And it is uncomfortable and it is off-putting to a lot of people, I think, but exploring that discomfort and that off-puttingness is really key to The Missing. Have we talked about how good The Missing is?
The Missing is so fucking
good.
Fucking
good. I haven't played it since we talked about it, and I really like to go back to it because The Missing is still really goddamn good. And 2064 is really goddamn good.
Yeah, and it's just like to kind of wrap everything up it's wholesome games, and like we saw it during the Game Awards too, where it's like games for a voice or whatever the category is. Games for Impact, where it's like, we're gonna shove all of the LGBTQ games into this category.
Right.
That's all where they're gonna go, and it's like, and it just sucks that like you have to. They feel pressured to do this because the burden is on them to not be problematic, because detractors are going to use any bit of it they can to harass them for it.
Sure, and it's a lot of people. Like there is, the Twitter, like it used to be a Tumblr teen, but like, there are shitty children on the internet. Yeah, that exists. I'm sorry. But it also is like a lot of people acting in bad faith, like holding people who really just don't want to see this kind of content anywhere. Yeah. Holding it to like too high of a standard in order to kind of bludgeon these games out of existence.
The kind of people who do make the problem with LGBTQ games, today, or woke, people who use woke as an adjective to describe anything that has a girl in it.
Yeah. There are probably, mean teenagers on the internet. There have always been mean teenagers on the internet. Yeah. But like, it's also, like I said, it's a lot of people arguing in bad faith. And after a certain point, you just want to like grab somebody by the shoulders and shake them and be like, ignore them.
Yeah, like
give me some drama.
Yeah, they're going to do that no matter what. No matter what you make, they're going to do that to any game that has
the edge down until it's a sphere.
Yeah, as if your character is not white straight male, they're going to say that about your game. It doesn't matter. So that's why it's frustrating when you see people who are like calling something problematic or like acting like they were lied to about even the mildest of like rough edge that somehow managed to survive the sanding. Right, yeah. It's just frustrating. And then you go and you play something like 2064 and it's like, oh right, I can have this. You can get this. Yeah, you can still get this kind of content, the kind of stuff that you're looking for, and what you want, and like hope that these kinds of games can eventually get to being like the norm. And yeah, it was just so refreshing to see all these different characters with different identities and different sexualities and everything, and it's just like, and they're in it, and it's a big part of who they are, and it's a part of their overall narrative, and it doesn't feel like you're being talked down to. Right. Except for Jess, who does talk down to you constantly. But that's who she is. Which is her personality. Yeah, which is the rough edge that you want out of characters. Yeah, sometimes it's like you want a character who, like, multiple points in this game, I'm like, okay, you're a bitch, I get it. But then eventually she softens up a little bit and like shows her like fun side during the riot when she's like, hey, try and hit that guy with the mohawk again. Yeah. And that part's really great. That part is great. It's awesome. Talking to Jess is great because I'm like, oh, I said the wrong thing at first, and now you will never take anything I say at face value. Awesome. You would just be mean to me all of the time. Great. But then at the very end, she's like, you got this. And you're like, I do got this if you think I got this. Yeah. So yeah. Play 2064 and get excited for their next game, and maybe someday Nirvana will come out. Yeah. In the meantime, play 2065 or whatever that game is going to be called. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. Do you have anything else? That's it. Okay. We covered all of it. Turing is my little blue baby, my little tiny child. I love them. So yeah, like we said at the beginning, this is our last indie week. Oopsie. We're doing a format change again. Yeah. Again. And we just realized that trying to like the thing we wanted about Indie Week was playing smaller games that would be easier on us. We just ended up in order to find that, we needed a game that had some substance to it anyway. Right. And it just ended up taking more or less the same amount of time to finish. Right, that's the problem. So is to have it fill a full gorge. And so ultimately it was kind of like the problem with having these 2 episodes is that you don't really have the freedom to drop a game if you don't like it. Yeah. Or to like start a game and be like, this is pretty good, I'll come back to it. You don't really have that kind of freedom. So instead we're going to a 2 roundups a month, 1 discussion episode instead. So that gives us a little bit more freedom to just kind of pick things up and talk about it. And, maybe if we like really like something, we'll start doing, I don't know, like Patreon episodes where we just where it's not like on the schedule, we're just like, get on the Discord call, turn on Zencaster and we'll just talk. You know what I mean? We need an hour. We can get an hour out of this right now while it's still in our minds, which is the podcast started in the first place. So back to our roots. So that's we're still kind of figuring it out, but for sure it'll be 2 roundups a month and 1 full episode like this where we're talking about a specific thing.
I don't know what the first one of the year will... No, I do know what
the first one will be, yeah.
The first one will be Tales of Arise.
Yes.
Look forward to that one. It's going to be 6.5 hours long. As I lay out point for point why I hate this game. Poor Ben will spend the whole episode just like twiddling his thumbs. I'm just like, are you done yet? No, I'm not done yet. I have more to say.
Are you done yet so that I can go play more good JRPGs like Yakuza?
Yeah. So look forward to that. That's going to happen eventually at the first of the year. So this tail end of the year was rough for me, folks. It was a bad time. I've had a very bad last 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to a new format to kind of shake things up.
Yeah, definitely.
Feel a little bit better and different. So, sorry that we're discontinuing Indie Week.
We kind of already did because I think we only got like 4 out this entire year.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we were always like, well, what's the sacrificial goat to make room for life situations? Well, it's Indie Week.
We have to ask. So Indie Week was constantly getting canned. So we're just permanently canning it, and we're going to try something. We're going to try something different in 2022 and see how that does. So if you know, you're on the Discord. Come talk to us on the Discord and give us your feelings. And we'll see everybody in 2022.
Well, no, we have one more episode.
We do have one more episode.
We do have our awards show. The Gorges will be near the end of the month, and then we also have our Patreon content to come out.
Correct. That's true. We'll handle that at some point this month. So, all right, Ben, do the outro spiel.
Thank you to Broke for Free for your some background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sara at radioinactivity. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to listen to Sara talk about LGBTQ games with LGBTQ people, you can listen to her other podcast.
And we have got some real fucking textural characters in my other podcast. That's for goddamn sure.
Sara's characters say fuck.
We say fuck, and we've got brain problems. Lots of them. Because, hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and we play tabletop games. We try out a lot of different systems. It's always a good time. Right now we're playing Beam Saber, a mech-based hack of the Forged in the Dark system, where we play as pilots of giant robots trying to navigate a complicated political situation. It's really good. I really like everything going on in there. So come check us out. We're at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks!
Also, I'll say this now, in January, I think January 3rd, he told me, we're gonna be on So You Think You Can Fan In.
Yes.
We got
ourselves a guest spot.
Which is a really, really cool podcast where a bunch of idiots who live in Michigan get together and read bad fanfic.
Mm-hmm. And talk about fandom shit in the betweens. We recorded it last week. It was a fucking blast.
I got lightheaded from laughing so hard.
Yeah, it was extremely fun. They will be on the show at some point in February,
yes.
I think. We're playing that one by ear, but they'll be here with us, so look forward to that.
So acclimate yourself to them by listening to that episode, and listen to all their episodes.
Yeah.
Too, because if ours are any indication, all of them are like that. Then
all of them are hilarious like that.
So yeah.
You got anything for once?
Yeah. Okay. So, fuck the society that has prevented queer creators from actually exploring deeper and darker themes with more texture and grit to them out of a necessity to feel safe in order to survive.
Yeah, that vibes with that.
If that made any amount of sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, fuck that shit that we can't just kind of like make the same kind of art that everybody else makes because we have to make ourselves more acceptable and presentable to the larger, world, essentially. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. That's why you should listen to Big Gay Nerds, because we don't do that.
Yes,
hey,
do that.
Double promo! Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.